Welcome to the notes and solutions for day 45 of our GCSE 5. A key piece of knowledge here is that our angles about a single point on a straight line sum to 180 degrees. So all these three here add up to 180. So what we need here is the bit that when added to 51 and 74 makes 180. So let's see what we've got there with 74 and 50. I'll just do this without a calculator. This comes to 125. So what I need is 180 take away 125. 0 take away 5. 5 is bigger than 0, so I'm going to borrow 1 from my tens column. So this is now 10 take away 5, which is 5. 7 take away 2 is 5. So our answer here is 55 degrees. And the nugget to go and practice on Century is 27.02. Now, I've said before, please make sure that if you're struggling with fractions questions, that you have a clear idea of what the fraction you're dealing with looks like. I've split my bar here into 8 equal parts. And if we're dealing with equal parts, then that should shout out to us that we're either going to do some multiplication or division. So I've divided into 8 parts. I want 3 of those. So that's what 3/8 looks like. My whole bar is 16. And what I'm asked for is what do these 3 amount to? So my first step with these 8 parts is to divide 16 by 8. I split my bar into 8 pieces. So 16 divided by 8 is 2. And that's telling me that every single one of these parts here is 2 because they are equal parts. I now have 3 of those. So 3 times 2 is 6. So in fact, I used both division and multiplication, and my answer is 6. The nugget I want you to go away and practice on Century is 4.39. Okay, now as soon as we see this word estimate, it should be shouting out to us that we need to do some rounding. But the rounding that we do is not of the answer, but of the numbers in our question. So instead of 7.1, I'm going to use 7. Instead of 97, I'm going to use 100. So there we have it. 7 times 100 equals 700. Estimation is one of the most important skills that you take into real life from your maths. And the nugget to go and practice on Century is 9.11. Okay, now let's have a think about our numbers here. What does it mean by square numbers and cube numbers? Well, square numbers are things like 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, which we write like this. So 1 squared is 1, 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 squared, 16, 5 squared, 25. Now, what does it mean by cube numbers? This is when we multiply 3 times. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 times 3, 27. 4 times 4 times 4, 64. And so on. So it is these numbers here that are my square numbers, and these numbers here that represent my cube numbers. Now, we've probably already seen that Mary could have come up with a slightly clever answer that one is both a square number and a cube number. If I go a little further down my list of square numbers, I'm going to come across 8 squared, which is 64, and we'll see that that appears in both columns. So 1 could have been an answer, 64 could have been an answer, and there are various other answers as well. Now you do need to know your square numbers, and the nugget to go and look at is 12.01, also maybe 12.02, although you may need to get your teacher to assign that for you. Just a little aside here. One of the reasons why this works is that 8 is already a cubed number. So when we square this, we have 2 cubed to the power 2, which can also be written as 2 squared to the power 3. So if I take 27, which is 3 cubed, then 27 squared is 3 cubed squared, which is the same as 3 squared cubed, which is 729. So if we square any of our cube numbers, then they are going to appear in both lists. Okay, standard form gives students problems because students try to remember a process rather than trying to understand why it's being done. Now the number, let's have a look at the number that we are looking at here. And I've written it out like this with sort of gaps. So we can see straight away that this is 5 million and something. And it's the million that is the most important issue with this number. And the million appears in the 10 to the power 6 column. And let me just... Okay, so standard form is meant to help us when we have very big or very small numbers, that we can see instantly what place the most significant, the most important number is. So this first significant number is going to be in front of a decimal point because everything else is less significant than that, and it's in the 10 to the power 6 column. So our standard form is 5 point, whatever the decimal places are, in this instance 83 times 10 to the power 6. So the solution that we're after is where we have one non-zero, so one significant digit to the left of the decimal point. All right, so that's our answer there, and that's our explanation why. Please don't, when you're doing standard form questions, end up converting between ordinary and standard form in order to do any work. The purpose of standard form is to make it easier to work with, and that's what you should practice. Okay, that's the end of our notes and solutions for day 45. If you've got any questions, please contact your teacher for help.